Part 3 of The Tower of Babylon by Ted Chiang. Pullers were beginning to lead their carts up the ramp. Hilolam and Nani bent down and slung the ropes of their cart over their opposite shoulders. They stood up together, raising the front end of the cart off the pavement. "Now pull!" cried Lugadam. They leaned forward against the ropes and the carts began rolling. Once it was moving, pulling seemed to be easy enough, and they wound their way around the platform. Then they reached the ramp, and then they again had to lean deeply. "This is a light wagon," muttered Hilolam. The ramp was wide enough for a single man to walk beside a cart if he had to pass. The surface was paved with brick with two grooves worn deep by centuries of wheels. Above their heads, the ceiling rose in a corbelled vault with the wide, square bricks arranged in overlapping layers. The chickadees are scolding me that they need some sunflower seeds. I will be right back. The pillars on the right were broad enough to make the ramp seem like a bit of a tunnel. If one didn't look off to the side, there was little sense of being on a tower. "Do you sing when you mine?" asked Lugadam. "When the stone is soft," said Nani. "Sing one of your mining songs, then." The call went down to the other miners, and before long, the entire crew was singing. As the shadows shortened, they ascended higher and higher. Shaded from the sun, with only clear air surrounding them, it was much cooler than in the narrow alleys of a city at ground level, where the heat at midday could kill lizards as they scurried across the street. Looking out to the side, the miners could see the dark Euphrates and the green fields stretching out for leagues, crossed by canals that glinted in the sunlight. The city of Babylon was an intricate pattern of closely set streets and buildings, dazzling with gypsum whitewash. Less and less of it was visible as it seemingly drew nearer the base of the tower. What the heck are you guys doing? Crazy chickens. Hilolam was again pulling on the right-hand rope nearer the edge when he heard some shouting from the upward level ramp, one level below. He thought of stopping and looking down the side, but he didn't wish to interrupt their pace, and he wouldn't be able to see the lower ramp clearly anyways. "What's happening down there?" "One of your fellow miners fears the height. There is occasionally such a man among those who climb for the first time. Such a man embraces the floor and cannot ascend further. Few feel it so soon, though." Hilolam understood. "We know of a similar fear among those who would be miners. Some men cannot bear to enter the mines, for they fear that they will be buried." "Really?" called Lugadam. "I had not heard of that. How do you feel yourself about the height?" "I feel nothing," but he glanced at Nani, and they both knew the truth. "You feel nervousness in your palms, don't you?" whispered Nani. Hilolam rubbed his hands on the coarse fibers of the rope and nodded. "I felt it too earlier when I was closer to the edge. Perhaps we should go hooded like that ox and the goat." "Do you think we too will fear the height when we climb further?" Hilolam considered. That one of their comrades should feel the fear so soon did not bode well. He shook it off. Thousands climbed with no fear, and it would be foolish to let one miner's fear infect them all. We are merely unaccustomed. We will have months to grow used to the height. By the time we reach the top of the tower, we will wish it was taller. No, said Nani, I don't think I'll wish to pull this any further. They both laughed. In the evening, they ate a meal of barley and onions and lentils and slept inside narrow corridors that penetrated into the body of the tower. When they woke the next morning, the miners were scarcely able to walk. So sore were their legs. The pullers laughed and gave them salve to rub on their muscles and redistributed the load on the carts to reduce the miners' burden. By now, looking down the side turned Hillalam's knees to water. A wind blew steadily at this height, and he anticipated it would grow stronger as they climbed. He wondered if anyone had ever been blown off the tower in a moment of carelessness, and the fall. A man would have time to say a prayer before he hit the ground. He shuddered at the thought. Aside from the soreness in the miners' legs, the second day was similar to the first. They were able to see much farther now, and the breadth of the land visible was stunning. The deserts beyond the fields were visible, and caravans appeared to be little more than lines of insects. No other miner feared the height so greatly that he couldn't continue, and their ascent proceeded all day without incident. On the third day, the miner's legs had not improved, and Hillalam felt like a crippled old man. Only on the fourth day did their legs feel better, and they were pulling their original loads again. The climb continued until the evening, when they met the second crew of pullers leading empty carts rapidly along the downward ramp. The upward and downward ramps wound around each other without touching, but they were joined by corridors through the tower's body. When the crews intertwined thoroughly on the two ramps, they crossed over to exchange carts. The miners were introduced to the pullers of the second crew, and they talked and ate together that night. The next morning, the first crew readied the empty carts for their return to Babylon, and Lugadam bid farewell to Hillalam and Nani. Take care of your cart. It has climbed the entire height of the tower more times than any man. Do you envy the cart too? Asked Nani. No, because every time it reaches the top, it must come all the way back down. I could not bear to do that. When the second crew stopped at the end of the day, the puller of the cart behind came over to show them something. His name was Kuda. You have never seen the sun set at this height. Come look. The puller went to the edge and sat down, his legs hanging over the side. He saw that they hesitated. Come, you can lie down and peer over the edge if you like. Hillalam did not wish to seem like a fearful child, but he could not bring himself to sit at a cliff face that stretched for thousands of cubits below his feet. He lay down on his belly with only his head at the edge. Nani joined him. When the sun is about to set, look down the side of the tower. Hillalam glanced downward and then quickly looked to the horizon. What is different about the way the sun sets here? Consider, when the sun sinks behind the peaks of the mountains to the west, it grows dark down on the plain of Shinar. Yet here, we are higher than the mountaintops, so we can still see the sun. The sun must descend further for us to see night. Hillalam's jaw dropped as he understood. The shadows of the mountains mark the beginning of the night. Night falls on the earth before it does here. Kuda nodded. You can see night travel up the tower from the ground up to the sky. It moves quickly, but you should be able to see it. He watched the red globe of the sun for a minute and then looked down and pointed. Now! Hilalam and Nani looked down. At the base of the immense pillar, tiny Babylon was in shadow. Then the darkness climbed the tower like a canopy unfurling upward. It moved slowly enough that Hilalam felt he could count the moments passing, but then it grew faster as it approached until it raced past them, faster than he could blink, and they were in twilight. Hilalam rolled over and looked up in time to see darkness rapidly ascend the rest of the tower. Gradually, the sky grew dimmer as the sun sank beneath the edge of the world, far away. Quite a sight, is it not? Hilalam said nothing. For the first time, he knew night for what it was. The shadow of the earth cast against the sky. And we will leave it there for now. Thanks for watching.